Deebo Samuel run game did not look on Sunday night the way it has looked in the past. You remember, we go back to last year, and this is normal. Things happen in the league where here comes Deebo. We've never seen a player have the season that Deebo had from basically week 10 through the playoffs. And now we come back the next year, and if you are going to play the 49ers on your schedule, you are fully prepared for that. Whereas you were much less prepared for Deebo Samuel, the running back, week 11 when he suddenly appeared on the scene than you would be if you're playing the 49ers in 2022. You spent time in your offseason preparing for the Deebo Samuel run game. Well, here it is, and maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it was the Denver defense just slowed him down. But maybe the teams that they're going to play spent some time in the offseason preparing for it, and maybe it will be less effective. And on some level, I wonder, how could it not be at least a little less effective when you think about how effective it was last year? On Sunday night, Deebo averaged 1.2 yards per carry. Not only that, 5 carries, not a big sample size, only 12 yards. He only averaged 2.5 yards after contact on Sunday night, which is about half of what he averaged last year when he was over 4 yards after contact. Now, there could be a variety of reasons for that. Maybe one of the reasons is he's run into a bunch of big dudes because there's a fast, athletic defense that Denver has, and it's hard.
What if Denver's one of the better tackling teams in the league?
Absolutely. All legit. Well, time will tell. But last year, they hit a ton of big plays, consistently hit big plays in the run game. From week 10 on, he had at least one explosive rush every week. And
what do you consider explosive rush?
10 yards or more.
10.
Now, I'm rounding up a little. He had like 3 games where he had a 9-yard rush. But I think for the point is, he had a semi-big play with the run game every week. And I think most weeks, if we look back at his game log, he was hitting 17 to 25-yard runs at least once a game. So it was a major part of their run game. And there has to be some acknowledgement that teams, that was a curveball. Teams now look for your curveball. What do you throw them? And I think Mike McDaniel would be part of the solution to that. Now, maybe part of the solution is going to be just keep feeding Deebo and you don't play the Broncos every week and it'll be fine. But I think we have to be prepared for the possibility that the Deebo Samuel run game is not as explosive as consistently as it was in 2021.
I would say that's a problem then if, one, Elijah Mitchell's out and their drop-off, even to Wilson, who's okay, solid, but he's a backup. And Ty Davis-Price has an ankle sprain. He's not. So to me, their running backs aren't as good. Now we'll see Coleman, who, again, has been cut. He's been on the Niners before, and Mason. And it's just like their running backs aren't as good. So he's like Deebo's their best running back. Like Deebo is a better running back than Jeff Wilson Jr., who's a running back. Deebo is the Niners' best running back. Now, you could make the case of like, well, you paid him this money. For him to equal that money, like you do need a lot out of him in the passing game as well. I just brought up his stats. I mean, he's got 12 catches. Like, now the problem with the Niners is like they're not going to have multiple wide receivers usually with like 10 catch games.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nice if they get a game where both guys, 11 and 19, each get like 6 to 8 catches each? Because to me, that stretches out the field a little bit and then makes it easier, even if you're rolling with Coleman, Mason, and Wilson, to just have solid running backs in this scheme, figure it out. But like part of Deebo, you know, and listen, he's not the other two guys. Like, because to me, he's in the group just based on their contracts were up. They all got paid because they all got drafted in the second round the same year. DK Metcalf and AJ Brown are outside wide receivers. It would look very weird if they were in the backfield alone, right? Like if DK Metcalf was next to the quarterback, you'd be like, what is going on here? You would just scream like, it would be terrible, but everyone would be like, trick play, right? People would freak out. When Deebo, it feels very natural. AJ Brown definitely would never, he's not as fast as DK. He might not, it wouldn't work. But like those guys got paid a lot of money. And when I watch, especially AJ, like stretching the field, now you would say, well, Deebo's skill set is just so much different than those guys. It's true. And for him to be a good player, like DK and AJ can like get open easier down the field. DK just can run so fast and he's such a deep threat. AJ is just such a big body so he can play basketball. Part of Deebo's really his greatness is the ball in his hands, like that play against Seattle where he juked out a guy in the backfield, juked out 3 more guys another 7 yards down the field. I do think you're going to have to try to figure something out of like utilize him as like the hybrid and less, more wide than back.
Yeah.
And whether that's just slants, outs, non the quick bubble screen, which, may have a better chance to work against the Rams. And like the Broncos, I was watching the Chiefs, Colts. Feels like the Chiefs defense is pretty good. Like their DBs are all tackling. McDuffie's been injured. Like, I mean, they just feel like they have a lot more. I know talking to a lot more team speed on defense. When you play defenses with a lot of team speed, it is much harder to execute the bubble screen, especially teams with team speed. And they're also tough. Like, and they'll tackle because then bodies just start like, I take out your wide receiver's legs. Like, I just create a collision. I wonder if that's a coaching point sometimes through the week. Like, don't let him stand you up because then Deebo can take him out, create a pile, and then we'll come rally to the ball. And that's what it felt like UC Davis did. Like, create a pile, we'll rally. And Deebo would it just felt like there wasn't as much green grass for him to go. And it might just be team speed, but
yeah, I didn't think he was any different.
No, that's why to me you got to utilize him down the field, and they kind of did. But his route, let's face it, is like a slant, an out, and the just streak down the.
Although Kyle got him open. Kyle got him open down the sidelines twice.
Yeah, which again, I have no problem doing that too.
But if you told me you get him open down the sideline twice a game, that's pretty good.
Well, then you got to utilize him that way to make it worth it. Once you're paying him this money, because just as a running back, the running backs die, right? They just get destroyed.
Yeah.
Unless you're Saquon, you can just run away from everybody.
But even Saquon's been hurt multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, he's torn his ACL.
20 targets for those 12 catches. So that's about on pace with what he was last year. Do you agree that it just might not be the same this year in the run game? Or do you think it's more likely that it just they bounce back with Deebo in the run game?
What I think is going to happen is each week they're just going to have to scheme specific plays, not just like run him and just
run our staples.
Yeah, because I do
Deebo
believe
toss
now
play, Deebo screen play.
When you put 19 next to the quarterback, it's like, why would you not all bite on the run?
Well, he's so valuable, you can't waste him too many times as a decoy, right? But to your point, like you're not the running back on the other side isn't Elijah Mitchell.
Well, do you think Danny Gray now with Trey
and the quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo? He's not a run threat. That's what Trey. That was going to be their curveball, John. Sorry, real quick. That was their curveball. The Deebo curveball this year was it's going to be with Trey.
Yeah,
right. It was like, okay, they're going to adjust to Deebo, but we're going to add Trey, so they're going to have to adjust again. Well, now Trey's gone, so the Niners kind of next level on the Deebo run game disappeared with Trey Lance.
Was Danny Gray a lot less valuable on this team without Trey Lance?
He's got a couple targets. When did those happen? I remember one of them. Did those both happen with Trey?
But you'd agree, like if Jimmy Garoppolo is your quarterback, Danny Gray ain't the type wide receiver you think of, correct?
No, Danny Gray, when Jimmy takes over, just starts throwing his stuff in a bag, puts it on a stick over his shoulder, and heads for the Oregon Trail.
The Niners have some major flaws right now on offense that, like, this is why they pay. They have a lot of high-priced guys, though. I know Trent is injured, but they still got Juszczyk, Kittle, Deebo. I mean, Ayuk is a high-priced talent, and their coach. Like, I'm sorry, guy. Like, my overall takeaway is just figure it the fuck out.
Well, it's going to have to be, like we talked about it the other day, the only guys that got targets that got catches in the first half of the game or touches were Deebo, Ayuk, Kittle. That was it. And Jeff Wilson Jr. Jennings got a target, but not a catch. Then the second half, now here's a juice play on the sideline, right? So there may be catch? It was pretty sweet. But you're right. Maybe we go into the game with, there's going to be a play for Danny Gray, which there was a play. It was when Garoppolo came in the Seahawks game. Remember, they threw a deep ball to Danny Gray.
Yeah.
Remember that play? And it felt like Kyle's just like, fuck it. We're running Danny. Just throw it to Danny. Let's see what happens.
A little bit different of a vibe of the game, right? Seattle sucks.
1,000% different vibe of the game.